Every year, there has always been something that we've changed, and it's just resulted in either a monetary return, whether that be more efficiency or whatever, or maybe it's, hey, it's made our amazing admin team's job on the front desk just that easier.
Welcome to How to Build a Profitable Nutrition Business. If you love nutrition and you love helping people and you want to be in the game long enough to keep doing that, then this is the podcast for you. Let's get into it. We all want a business that affords us the lifestyle we aspire to. Today's guest is Mitch Smith, owner of Health Management Dietitians based up in Cairns. Mitch purchased an already successful dietetic practice a little over a decade ago, but since then has added an extra $1 million in annual revenue, doubled the size of his staff, and just recently was able to take a 6-week holiday and barely had to touch base with the business. That is the sort of business that many of us dream of. Now, how did Mitch do this? He is a true believer in continuous improvement, looking at data, making decisions, and then acting on those decisions. There are so many bits of wisdom in this podcast that I recommend anyone in that nutrition space should listen to. So let's get into it. Welcome back to another episode of How to Build a Profitable Nutrition Business. Today, I have another male dietitian who has pioneered a really successful business up in North Queensland. And so when you hear Mitch's story, you'll certainly relate to just the hard work that he's put in to grow such a flourishing business. And I'd like to hand over to Mitch. Firstly, mate, thank you very much for coming on today. And if you could give our listeners a bit of a background about Health Management Dietitians and sort of where you started off and how you've got to where you are today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And it's something that over the years I've been really passionate about the business side of things just as much as the nutrition element. And so when I finished uni at Sunshine Coast Uni, and I think it was 2011, I think it was, maybe 2012. I think it was 2011, long time ago. And I did a little bit of private practice work in Brisbane, and I just didn't fall in love with the industry. And then so essentially I had an opportunity where a job came up at Health Management Dietitians, and Tara Diversity owned the business at the time, and she interviewed me over the phone. I think I applied the very last day because I only saw it very late. Applied, got a phone call that afternoon, an interview the next day, and then I was up here, I think, within 2 weeks. So I was really fortunate to have that, I guess, my first start. And so since then, health management for me has been everything in terms of my identity and who we've created this business around everything. And so for me, the business sort of represents an opportunity to be able to help people, particularly in a local community like Cairns and Mareeba and Atherton. So a lot of that sort of Cairns, Atherton Tableland region as well. And for us, we really focus on having a really personalised approach, and our slogan is supportive, friendly, and healthy. And those are the three things that we really want to push across to our clients, and that's what we want to be known for. We've got those 3 locations. We've got 6 full-time dietitians, including me, and we've got a practice manager and a full-time receptionist as well. So we look after, I guess, probably every type of client that you would see in a private practice setting. And fortunate, or no, I use the word fortunate, I think, in that because we're one of the only sort of businesses in the region, specific dietetic practices, in that we've had to make sure that every person we've employed, or when we've done some additional training and upskilling, we've made sure that we've got someone that is really upskilled in that particular area. And myself, sports nutrition, and we've got another dietitian who's excellent at eating disorders, and another one from a gut health. And so we've got a really good mix of those people. But one of the things that I really stand by is that we all have to be good at being able to see everyone. But of course, if we need that extra little skill set, we've got that person there that's done the extra upskilling as well.
Yeah, you really need that, don't you, in those regional practices? You need your specialist dietitians there, but you've got to have a generalist approach.
Yeah.
Mate, I relate to that for sure, because our practice was regional, like in central Queensland. So I know exactly what you're talking about. Now, mate, you've
Yeah.
owned health management dietitians now for 9 years, is my numbers correct? Is that right?
No, actually a bit longer. I think it was 10 years last year, so it must be 11. Maybe I've
Oh,
got my
wow.
note, but it's definitely over 10. I know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
And so, mate, you,
Yeah.
you went from, I think, an initial turnover around 300K to about 1.3 million, if you don't mind me saying that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
No, I don't mind. No, that's fine. And I'm a pretty open book. Like I think it's really hard. Sometimes people are very closed off about that sort of thing, but I think it's really important when you've got an audience that are trying to benchmark or trying to figure out where you sit and how you're going. It's those are things that I think are really important. So no problem there.
yeah. So, mate, I mean,
Mm.
like, that's fantastic growth. You were saying early on you weren't in love with the industry, but the move up there and owning your business, has that like really developed a passion? Because I guess again, I'm talking about my own experience. I'm a little bit the same. I work better when my own boss because I can fix my mistakes and I can implement changes and see growth. And
Mm.
reading your sort of background, it seems like like you really look into the data of your business and make changes and really enjoy seeing that growth that's come from it. Would I be right in saying that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think there's something really I think it's really cool when you can go, we've identified a problem, let's just say from an administration perspective, there might be something that maybe we could be doing a little bit more efficiently. And I remember every year there has always been something that we've changed, and it's just resulted in either a monetary return, whether that be more efficiency or whatever, or maybe it's, hey, it's made our amazing admin team's job on the front desk just that easier. And I think about there's so many examples, but one example is just going from an old paper form years ago, and then it might take, I don't know, 5 minutes to input that data into the system. 5 minutes times an average of 150 new clients a month. That's a lot of time.
Yeah.
And when you add that up, and then the saving that therefore the time that my receptionist has by not having to do that anymore, I can get them to do another job that improves another area. And I remember when we first took over, and this was a long time ago when practice management systems weren't really in. And I remember we had a Google Calendar was our calendar management system, and we used Word doc as our progress notes. And there was even points that we'd handwrite progress notes and scan them in on an old scanner that you'd put there. I was just like,
Oh, wow.
unbelievable. There's no way we could do what we do today if we were still doing those things. So that's what I
Right.
love, when you can make those small little changes and you can see an improvement.
Yeah, you are basically a mirror to my business. We started
Yeah.
off with Word doc, and you could actually put some VBA code into a Word doc that would help populate. If you put in, it'd calculate BMI. So you could do a little bit of code in the
Mm.
background of them, but they were always really clunky and it never worked. And eventually we went to an Access database, which is the dinosaur of Word. It's like,
Yeah.
but we built a system around that. And it was back in, like, our business we started in 2015. It was a mismatch of all these tech products that were slowly coming to the market. But now there's solutions where it just does it all. So it's
Yeah.
that efficiency you talk about is huge, isn't it?
Massively. Yeah. And I think that's probably something that I really strive on, is being able to go, okay, what is the problem that we have and what is the potential solution? And one of the things that I still do, but I did earlier on, was I would go out and I'd be a receptionist for a day or 2 days every month. And I go out, and just the things of being able to answer the phone, do all the day-to-day stuff that you've got an admin team doing, but they're just little things that I guess I've always been very fortunate. I've got a great admin team, but it's just little things that you just pick up on and go, why are we doing it that way? And I was like, we can do that better. Let's change this, this, and this. And then bang, all of a sudden and I think
Wow.
I've been really forward with a lot of my staff in that I really want them to have the autonomy and have the ability to know that they can make changes. We don't just continue to do the same thing because that's what we've always done. And I really want people to feel like it's their little baby that they can mold and shape and change for the better. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's something we try and work on.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So you've seemed to have kept the team together for a long time. A lot of because you got a practice manager that runs the place, well,
Yeah.
manages a lot of the systems for you too, don't you?
Yeah, she is the everything. She's the heart of the business, and we're very fortunate to have her. She's got an awesome mix just of never stressing, never worrying, nothing's a problem. And when we have our little discussions, the biggest thing that I want from her is not to be 100% busy. I want her to be 60, 70% busy with tasks and whatnot. But I want that 30% to be open to go, hey, what do you need from me today? Is there anything I can do to help you with? So it makes people feel like we're really a team and there's someone there to help, and we're not just always flat stick. And when someone comes into your office, there's nothing worse than when you walk in and you're not present with that person. And I want to be able to have that. If someone comes in and asks a question, I want to be able to drop everything that I'm doing and I want to help that person. And that's something we try and push across from manager perspective as well.
Wow, yeah, that's fantastic. It sounds like an awesome culture that you've built there.
We're fortunate. We've had good people over the years, and I think the other thing, and probably being in Central Queensland as well, but being in Cairns and Tablelands, most of the dietitians, they're based down south or so on. So we've really struggled to recruit really experienced dietitians. So one of the things that, and particularly you might have an experienced dietitian and they might not move because they might have a family or they've got other family where they are or other commitments. So it's been really hard to recruit. So what I guess our recruitment strategy has been is to take a relatively new graduate and really put a lot of extra training and support involved. And I can honestly say we've picked up a lot of really great dietitians that after 2 years, they're potentially better than someone who's been practicing for 5 to 10 because of all that extra training and exposure that they've been exposed to.
And that must help with your retention, I'd imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've changed lots over the years. We started off initially maybe with not awesome employee retention, not terrible, but not where I'd like it to be. And we just kept changing things and improving salaries and conditions and trying to make it a really awesome place. And I'm being really honest, we actually lost a little bit of our culture, I reckon about midway through, probably the 5 or 6 year mark. And I probably can't put my finger on what it was particular, but we really worked hard in the last 2 to 3 years to change that. We run work retreats. We do lots of professional development and lots of that support we were talking about from a manager perspective. And I think that's really changed a lot as well.
Yeah. So that, to be honest with you as well, mate, we lost ours. We had a great culture and lost ours. And it was actually part of the demise where we decided to sell the business because we just had enough. And you were saying earlier in the questions that I sent you, you'd be up at 4, go to the gym, start at 6, you get home at 6 p.m, then you're up till midnight doing work. And that was us with the young family. We were just burnt out. So the culture loss was our fault, but we just had enough. So, mate, kudos for keeping it going and turning it around, because it's so important, isn't it, to have a good culture. Like when everything is just humming together, the business thrives.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it just takes one person to either be the really good culture adder or the subtractor. And it's just, I don't know, little things like everyone comes in and everyone here is really good friends with each other. And I think there is one person in particular in this business that makes it. And I think that person adds a lot of value to us, and that's stuff that you can't put a price on.
Yeah, 100%. So, mate, over the years, if I can dive a little bit deeper, because obviously you've had good growth, you've got a great business. What are some of the key aspects that you think have really fueled that growth?
Yeah. I think there's probably been a myriad of things. I think the efficiency element that we spoke about before, we moved to using Clinico, we moved to a lot of other data tracking. One of the things, and probably just talking about that growth from an overall revenue perspective, one of the things that I have no problem doing is making sure that my staff know, and our dietitians in particular, know their numbers. I want them to know, okay, what's been their revenue for the month? We've got a really sort of good spreadsheet, and it's got revenue, how many new clients rather, how many total appointments, the average revenue per appointment, what's their review ratio, and there's 1 or 2 other metrics, but they're like our key things that we keep track of. And every month when we do that data, I sit down with each person and go, okay, cancellation rate, that's what it was. And so I sit down with everyone and we go through that data. And I think if, say, there's been a lot more cancellations, we don't look at it as, what are you doing wrong? We look at it and go, okay, what's happened over the course of the month? What sort of things have you been working on? What are some thought processes around why this could be occurring, and then we can put some strategies in place that can help improve that. Because I think otherwise, if we're not always looking at some of that data that comes through, I find that you just continue to do the same thing. You get stuck in the mold, and it could be like you get a client comes in and they're really motivated, really keen, just a weight loss client. And if you frame it in a way of, oh, you're actually doing really well, like, why don't I see you in a month? That person goes, I'm not doing really well. Like I come in here for help. Like a month is too long in their mind, but they may not repeat that. So
Yeah.
it could be like, you made some really good changes. This is really great. We're going to make a few extra tweaks in the plan, but I want to see you next week. And what we're going to do is we're going to really work on that accountability. We're going to keep a food diary, and that person can walk away feeling supported and almost like they're being nurtured. So that little thing might actually make the client get better results by coming back more frequently. So stuff like that, just the way that you phrase things, I find is really important. So I think that's been a big part of is looking at the data.
Yeah, it's huge, isn't it? And I've had this conversation on the podcast before, is that it's a real balance I find for a business owner to have that conversation with the staff, because the staff, it's easy to think that, oh, you're just thinking about the money. And hand up, yes, I am thinking about the money, but it's not the only thing I'm thinking about. I have to think about the money because I need to pay the bills and your wage. But to help the client, it's contact, it's support. It's the more contact you've got, the better their results. So it's a bit of a challenge. And mate, you're big on customer satisfaction, which is I'd love to hear about. Like, how do you address that?
Yeah, so we have a really simple customer satisfaction survey that goes out to every client. So they receive a text message within 24 hours. That's all automated through Pet Talker, which is like a link on of Clinico. And so basically 24 hours after their initial consult, they get a text message. And we tell them that it's coming. So we say, look, you're going to get a text message 24 hours after. It's just a really simple one question answer. And basically the question is, we've actually just changed it yesterday. So we had how likely are you to refer us to a friend or a family member? And we've actually just changed that. Just the wording slightly were on a scale of 1 to 10, did we meet your expectations? And because we didn't want it to be like, if you're not a person that's going to refer, that's totally fine. But in your head, you just might have that association. So we wanted it to be, have we met your expectations? And so for us, anything under a 9 or a 10 is we need to do work with that. And it might not mean that there was anything wrong or anything negative with the consult, but it might just be maybe what they thought they were going to get was different to what we delivered. And so if we've got that disconnect with a client, it means that maybe we could have done better about asking what it is I can help you with today, or what are you going to get the most out of? Because we often have this little, what we think a client needs versus what they want might be different. And that might be the only thing, is that we provided an awesome service, but it just might not have been what they wanted. And so that can be more around our line of questioning, or when we introduce ourselves, what we're going to do today, that sort of stuff. And so we get a report back from Pep Talker, and we get a bit of a summary that says, okay, this dietitian had an average of 9 out of 10 or 10 out of 10. And then it goes through each of the responses, and people can put a comment in if they want to as well, the client. And then all that feedback will go back to the dietitian every month, so they can get an idea of, they might go, I did so well with that client, and they come back and it's a 6, and you go, oh, what happened there? Like, I missed that. So yeah, it's a really good little training tool, I think. And we want people, and if our goal is that if somebody doesn't score us really well, we'll pick up the phone and call them and just say, hey, we just noticed you gave us a 5 out of 10. Was everything okay? We really want to make sure we're meeting your expectations. What did we miss? That sort of stuff.
Yeah. Do your dietitians enjoy like that time of the month where the stats are coming in, almost like it's the report cards are coming out? I'd like to see how I've done. Do you find, I mean, I guess it's personality dependent, isn't it? But it's
and some just love it because it's okay. I want to see, you can look at the calendar and go, yep, it's full. But when you get some sort of like quantitative data that says this is how you've done, I find some people are really good with that and other people hate it. And I'm really aware of that. And I don't want it to be this is how you've done this month, what's going on. We we make it a really good, enjoyable conversation. What do you think you did really well? What could we do better? That sort of stuff. And I find it's not too much of an issue, but I am very aware of that. I don't want it to be a report card. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because it is so important for their development as a dietitian, not just your business, really, isn't it? Like if you don't enjoy that self-reflection, like how do you grow? You've got to know what are the areas you need to focus on.
And it's interesting because we never used to do it. And it was staff driven, dietitian driven that we did it. And I was always like, I don't want this to be the report card situation. But I reckon nearly every dietitian said, have you got my numbers this month? I'd like to have a look at them. Yeah. And I guess it helps them. It's that development thing, but also makes them feel if they are doing well, they're getting that feedback that they are doing well. And I think no matter how many times you can say, look, you've done a really great job this month, well done, irrespective of any numbers, when you've got that data there, it's almost like that proof. So it's been dietitian led. It's not been something so now I've just implemented it because there's been that many people that wanted it. That's just what we do. Yeah.
How good. And what about like marketing strategies for you there? Because what's the population of Cairns?
So last time I checked, it was about 170 of stable population, and then I think it can be up to double that during a dry season, but generally 170.
Wow. And okay, is there many other dietitians that you're in that are based up there?
There's another small little practice, just a sort of one man, one female show, and then there's another lady who does a little bit of sort of part-time. So there's a couple of little part-time sort of people that do a little bit out of practices, but we're the main business per se across those locations. So there's none in Mareeba, none in Atherton except for us.
And so what sort of marketing strategies have you used that you found successful over that time, or is it word of mouth or?
I think the biggest thing I think is that word of mouth reputation. Nothing beats that, but probably something that we've been very fortunate over the years. There's probably two elements, and the first one is just a good steady base of GP and other health professional referrals. It varies, but like the other day we had 30 new referrals come through in one day, but we get an average of about 150 new clients in a month. There's a really good referral base there. And then the second thing was probably 4 or 5 years ago, I was really negative on sort of print advertising or any of that sort of stuff. So I really wanted to make sure we had a really good digital presence. And of course, you can do your website and you can make sure all of your SEO and whatnot is up to scratch and there. But I think the biggest thing there was we engaged News Corp. So they have a really good digital advertising element. And it was stuff that I'd never seen before. So it was to the point where it was Google search words. We'd have a big list of kind of key search terms or dietitian near me or sports nutrition advice, that sort of stuff. So we'd have a Google search element that would then put us to the top in terms of advertising. And then we'd have a social presence display ads, which would have our logo or a picture of a dietitian doing a consult or me doing some sports nutrition work or something like that. And then if somebody was typing things into their social media or into Google, when they go across to their social media, we would come up almost like a display image because they were identified within our target metrics to be a person of interest or an interesting lead. So they would get like a display ad, and then we couple that with, we'd have Google search, we'd have display, and we'd have, what's the other one? It'll come to me soon, but we had another element to that as well. So it was like a three-pronged approach where we could try and target a lot of people that were qualified leads. And the best thing about it is we've got a dashboard where I can see if a person has come through from, say they've clicked on that display ad in their social media or on the side of a website that might come up or whatever. They click on that and then it would take them through to our website and our book online page, and I could follow their whole process to find, did that person actually book in with us? And then I can figure out, okay, how much did that click cost us? So it's not a cheap alternative, but it was really great for brand presence and getting conversions.
But I compare that to the old days where you put something in the newspaper and you've still got no idea, have you, whether they
Yeah.
where they've come from
That's
other
what
than
I
asking.
hated. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you get that. It's going to cost me $1,000 to put an ad in the paper, but unless you put a call to action and say, it's 20% off if you saw this ad, we would get nothing.
Yeah.
It'd just be a waste of, it'd just be brand recognition would be the only reason we would do it. And the other thing that you can do, and it's pretty cool, is that somebody clicks on an ad, right? And then what it would do is it bring us through to our website. And if they wanted to call us, it would generate a different number. And so that number, when they clicked on it, it would come through to our whole phone system and it would get recorded, the conversation, into our portal. So
Yeah.
I can actually listen and say, okay, this person called up, they'd like to see a dietitian. What was the whole process? And so I can see what's actually going on. So it's really cool to be able to track all of those things.
Yeah. Is that dial, Pat?
No, it was part of their News Corp
Oh,
system
all part of that. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
in the
Yeah, right.
portal. Yeah.
Oh, how good.
So, yeah, it's really cool. And I just was very negative on the just pay money and hope for the best type thing. I just never wanted to do that. So,
I know. And mate,
yeah.
looking at the Taipans singlet behind you, you look like you're involved in the community a fair bit as well.
Yeah, and I think that's probably a really big element, being a community-based organisation like the Taipans. We look after the Taipans and have done for 11, well, more than 11 or 12 years, because they were Tara was looking after them when they first were here. So we try and get involved with lots of little organisations as well, local swimming or cricket or netball, those sort of things as well. So we try and get that brand presence and recognition that way. And I think being a smaller community than a bigger regional centre or a city, we have the ability to do that. And I'd like to think that we're very fortunate in that, say, someone's playing netball, they're doing lots of training, and mum or dad identify and go, hey, Jenny's not eating very well. We might go and see Mitch from Health Management Dietitians, or we might go and see health management. It's not like we'll go and see a dietitian and then search for it.
Yeah,
and I think that's being part of that community gives us the ability to do that bit of recognition.
Mate, it's obviously paying off for you. Sounds like you've built yourself quite the business up there, and it's a real service to the community. And I imagine you're probably getting into the online space as well. Do you service outside of?
That's really interesting questions. And I just saw some metrics the other day, and it was I know Peter is doing it, and another lady is doing a heap of research into benchmarking private practice and so on. And our online, the amount of appointments we do that are online based, I reckon are less than 5% of our total business. And then I've seen other businesses that are probably 90% online. And I wonder if I'm not quite sure, but I feel like a lot of that probably comes from a bigger city sector. I don't know, but it's really interesting in that regional space. No matter how much we try and push a bit more online, we really struggle. And even just with our News Corp advertising, we took out like a bit of a separate side that would be in addition to what our current spend is within our, Atherton, Tablelands and Cairns region. And we really targeted that kind of Townsville, Mackay, Darwin type centres. And we're getting a bit more recognition, but not really getting much traction. Yeah, it's interesting. I don't know if it's just because of our regional area that people want to come in and do more of a consult, but yeah, not much.
What do you have a big social media following? Do you use social media?
We do, probably nowhere near to the extent of some other businesses that do it really well. One of the things that I've been like, we want to push that space, but as you're probably aware, it is a massive time-intensive process to make content, to promote that. And I don't know, I think our target market has shown us time and time again that probably where we are, it's not, that extra time is not warranted in terms of doing a lot more online, maybe down the track. But I don't know, we're busy, we're doing, I just don't know if I want to invest that time to do the online space. Maybe I'm wrong. I'm happy to take the feedback, but yeah.
Mate, I've got another guest coming on soon who you might want to listen to, because he is online. So it's Aidan Muir. And
I know Aidan. He does an amazing job.
Oh,
he is
phenomenal.
excellent. Yeah,
He
is the perfect example of killing the online space.
Yeah, his strategy. I actually listened to him at the DA conference, and his strategy was basically probably very similar to us starting our business, head down, bum up for years with not a lot of return. Whereas now he's starting to reap the rewards years later from his social media strategy. But we're about to talk soon, so I've got a heap more questions for him. So.
Yeah.
But mate, it's a full-time job, that social media space. It's very time-consuming.
It is. I can see there being a point where you probably have a person that's almost in charge of just that whole space. But
it's my wife's a social media marketer. Her job, her niche is online course creators specifically. But she's a little bit like you running your business, actually. That she says you can contract that space out, but as the business owner, like your business is through your brain 24/7 almost, and so you're thinking of things to post. So she says, if you do get someone else to do it, you've still got to have your fingerprints all over it, because it's something that, you can't contract out those thoughts that you're running of the business. But anyway, you've got to have the bandwidth to do it.
Definitely. Yeah.
Mate, thank you so much for coming on today. I'm just going to finish off with one more question. If you could we'll just pick one piece of advice, because you've given me so much today, but if you could pick one piece of advice for any budding nutrition entrepreneur who's into the space or getting into the space, what would that be with starting a nutrition business?
I would say know your numbers, and not just from a financial perspective, but if you're trying to implement something, you want to have a bit of a baseline of where you're at. And then if you make some changes, how much does it cost you to make those changes, or how much does it save you? And then what does the metrics look like? Because I feel in a lot of times we make decisions based on what we think is the right way to go, but then the metrics might tell us, or the data tells us something different. And I think that if you've got something to back that up, you can then go, great, it cost us this much, say, in advertising, or we did this. What was the outcome, and was it a return that we wanted? Conversely, if you allocate, I don't know, another 10 hours or 20 hours to do a task across a month, how much is that costing you, and what's the return on your time investment as well? I think I've found over the years that I just made a lot of changes, and I kick myself sometimes and I go, what was the outcome of that? And was it actually a good change? And did we get any customer feedback on that? So I really like to have that bigger approach of where we're at. So knowing your data and your numbers is really good, because you can make more informed decisions.
Yeah, great advice. Mate, thank you for your time. If anyone wanted to follow you, or they had any questions, if you were open to that, what's the best way for them to reach out?
Yeah, look, so I'm a big phone sort of person. So my phone number is 0430 522 470. And I'm usually pretty quick on the phone, but for anything that's a bit longer, my email is mitch@healthmanagement.com.au.
All right. And are you on LinkedIn, if we share your LinkedIn thing as well?
LinkedIn.
Right.
Yep, absolutely.
We'll do that. Okay, mate, thank you very much for your time. Appreciate it. And this will no doubt be really beneficial to anyone listening.
No worries. Thanks for having me.
Did you find this podcast valuable? There may be other nutrition professionals out there will also. If you like, share, and subscribe, it's going to help other nutrition professionals make an impact on the world just like you. Thanks.